Taverns are a ubiquitous locale in Dungeons & Dragons and most role-playing games in general, but it's rare that these places of rest and reverie are used to their full mechanical potential. So today, we're going to change that. Specifically, we're going to do a deep dive into what it might look like if we gave a tavern's menu items a predictable set of buffs, bonuses, and most importantly, trade-offs. To do so, we're going to break this down into 3 categories, which I'm calling foodie fortitudes, boozy buffs, and black market boons. This will only get more intense and extreme as we go, so let's just start simple with a little bite to eat. Close your eyes and imagine this. Your party goes to a coastal town and wanders into a small tavern called the Eldritch Nightcap. It's a quaint place run by a half-orc who wears an eye patch. And above the bar, you find 2 menus. One is for drinks, and the other is for food. You decide that it's in your best interest to order something to eat first. You see a list of food options, ranging from basic to exotic. Here's what you might see and what they might do. Hearty stew. This is a rich mixture of root veggies and beef, cooked over an open flame. Consuming 1 bowl of stew will give you advantage on all Constitution saving throws for the next hour. This particular effect will synergize nicely when we get to the alcoholic drink options, but one thing at a time. Mutton. This is a greasy, honey-glazed slab of gamey mutton. Consuming 1 serving will grant you 1 temporary hit point. Pie. This is a sweet, buttery pie made with local berries. Eating a slice of this pie restores 1 HP like a good berry would. But then we get to a couple of more exotic options. Dragon fillet. This is a seared fillet of smoky and spicy dragon's meat. Eating 1 serving will give you resistance to fire damage until the next long rest. Awakened shrub salad. This is a bittersweet mix of leafy greens and a creamy dressing. Eating 1 serving has a 1 in 4 chance of letting you speak with plants for the next 10 minutes. For these food options, the effects can stack. But with the exception of the pie, the rules of D&D prevent any real advantage to consuming multiple servings of a single item. So there's a bit of balance baked in. For example, eating multiple servings of mutton wouldn't do anything beyond the first, since temporary HP doesn't stack in D&D. But before we even get to the drinks, we have to ask ourselves, is this even balanced? I mean, is a menu of minor buffs accessible in most towns or villages really a good idea? Well, so far, I think so. And that's because using these foodie effects and other boons to come is limited by 1 central and adjustable in-game resource, which of course is gold. Some of these items will be pretty cheap, like the stew, but more powerful options like the awakened shrub salad should definitely cost a lot more. Not only is it probably much harder to come by, but its effects are also much greater. Now, I haven't listed specific prices because I found that most tables and dungeon masters have their own economic scaling anyway. But one more quick note on food before we move on to ales and such. Keep in mind that food options can be an awesome means of environmental storytelling or world building. Is there a demonic imp problem in the local haunted woods? Well, there might be imp meat on the menu. Is there an ongoing war with the mer people? Well, as weird as it would be, that might be on the menu too. These are small, creative ways to make your world feel more dynamic and alive, and could even serve as plot hooks in the right conditions. But on that note, let's have a drink. With your belly full of food, you turn your gaze to the drink menu at the Eldritch Nightcap, and you find a list of libations. Some alcoholic and some non-alcoholic, despite what I titled this section of the video. The things we do for alliteration. As you look down the list, here is what you find. Ale. This is a locally brewed hoppy ale. Drinking 1 will provide a +1 bonus to all strength checks and strength-based attack rolls. Mead. This is a sweet, honey-based imported wine. Drinking 1 glass of mead will provide a +1 bonus to all charisma checks. Whiskey. This is a dark, smoky dram from a dwarven city not too far away. Drinking 1 glass of whiskey will provide a +2 bonus to all intimidation checks. For each of these drinks, the effects are stackable and last for 1 hour. So you could have 3 ales in an hour and end up with a +3 to strength. Or you could have 2 whiskeys and a mead for a +5 to an intimidation and a +1 to all other charisma checks. But now that we're dealing with alcohol, we can also add a critical balancing mechanic: intoxication. For every alcoholic drink you consume, you make a DC 6 Constitution saving throw. So having that bowl of hearty stew could really come in handy here. For every additional drink within the hour, this DC goes up by 2. So if you have 3 drinks, that would be a DC 10. But if you have 5, that would be a DC 14. If you fail this this Constitution saving throw, you become drunk, and two things will happen. One, you take on the poisoned condition. This gives you disadvantage on all ability checks and attack rolls, potentially undoing the benefits of your drinks in the first place. Two, you actually gain resistance to bludgeoning damage as a result of your body being a bit more relaxed, which probably isn't backed up by science, but here we are anyway. Now, if you fail the Constitution saving throw while already poisoned, either from drinking or from anything else, you just pass out and take on the unconscious condition. But if you want to avoid intoxication altogether, you can always stick to these non-alcoholic options. Tea. This is a soothing herbal tea imported from an elvish nation. For each cup of tea you drink, you recover an additional 1 HP at the next short rest or gain 1 temporary HP after the next long rest, whichever comes first. Coffee. This is a light halfling roast with a buttery, semi-sweet finish. For each cup of coffee you drink, you gain +1 to all perception checks and -1 to all Constitution saving throws for the next hour. Broth. This is a savory bone and veggie broth made in a cast iron cauldron. For each cup of broth you drink, you gain +1 to Constitution saving throws. This effect lasts until the next long rest. I would recommend letting these drinks stack only twice. Otherwise, you could end up with caffeine-induced godlike senses, or an impervious broth-born constitution. But now it's time for us to take a step into the shadows, into the less explicit and more illicit side of taverns. Because now it's time to talk about the black market elixirs and other dark side drams that you might find at your local tavern. We've finally come to possibly my favorite part of this video, which is about the items for sale that aren't technically on the menu, because they're not technically legal. Put simply, if your world has a black market, your taverns are a very likely place for it to rear its ugly head. People are drunk, travelers are passing through, and if the tavern owner or bartender wants a slice of the action, it's easy enough for an illicit elixir to be served up right alongside the other legal libations. But what exactly are we talking about when we speak of illegal potions? Well, this is going to vary a lot based on your world and on your table. But to me, these are tonics and elixirs that have potentially dangerous or even fatal side effects, but come with truly powerful upfront benefits. In other words, a very extreme trade-off. Let's just run through some examples. After a few drinks and a meal at the Eldritch Nightcap, the rogue in your party notices a few lines of thieves' cant written on the wall behind the bar, and the rogue recounts these hidden menu items to you. Giant's blood. This is a foul-smelling tonic that is thick like syrup. When you consume a vial of giant's blood, you gain 20 temporary hit points that last until the next long rest. However, when that long rest is complete, you must succeed on a DC 16 Constitution saving throw. On a failure, you become addicted and lose 2d6 from your maximum HP. These can only be restored while under the effects of giant's blood or when your addiction is cured. Each time you use giant's blood, you repeat this process to determine whether the addiction worsens and whether you lose more max HP. Searsite Tonic. This is a light and bubbly potion. When you consume a vial of Searsite, your intelligence and wisdom scores increase to 20 for the next 5 minutes. After those 5 minutes elapse, both scores are reduced to 5 until the next long rest. Fire Brood. This is a hot, intense potion that swirls like firewood if it were a liquid. Drinking one Fire Brood grants you the ability to cast Firebolt at will or Fireball only once at a 3rd level. This effect lasts for 1 minute or until Fireball is casted. If a Fireball is casted, make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw. On a failure, the spell backfires and you take twice the spell's damage internally. You explode and instantly die if this damage is enough to drop you to 0 HP. These are just a few examples, but I think they convey the point fairly well. These potions are very powerful, but even more dangerous. I should also say that inspiration for that last one came from Brian Murphy of Not Another D&D Podcast. Let me know in the comments if you know what I'm talking about specifically. Not every tavern is going to have these illegal options, and the ones that do will have them available in different ways. These are usually last-ditch options for characters to level the odds ahead of a daunting challenge. So don't be surprised if players buy a few and hold on to them until they're needed. But also don't be surprised when I tell you that everything in this video in some way originated from the Arcane Almanac. An early October issue of the Almanac included a few minor effects of tavern orders, most of which made their way into this video in one way or another. So if you enjoy these kinds of concepts and want to see more like them more often, you can sign up for the Arcane Almanac using the link in the description. It's an entirely free email digest that I personally send out twice a month, every other Saturday. It's packed with nearly useless magic items, D&D rules and items item suggestions, side quests, D&D related website recommendations, and more. I also run giveaways there every few months, like last month when I gave away a Pixels Smart D20. Like I said, you can join for free using the link down below. There you can also find a link to all the food, drink, and potion options that were shown in this video. And speaking of, if you have enjoyed the video, the best way to support the channel is by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment right now. Maybe your go-to tavern order, or even better yet, another menu stat idea that you'd like to share for other people to use in their games. In the meantime, have an excellent day, thank you so much for watching, and maybe check out this video next.